About a year or so ago, I set out on a journey to finish and review Library of Ruina, a deck-building card game by South Korean indie developer Project Moon. At the time, I did not know the rabbit hole I would soon fall into. You see, Project Moon and their fans are, to put it lightly, insane. Lobotomy Corporation is an autism management game, as in I needed to learn how to manage the autism I got from playing the game. In Lobotomy, you're tasked with managing a power plant that runs on not SCPs, instead of something normal like uranium. These non-SCPs are called Abnormalities, and it is your job to harvest energy from them. Just like in real life, you are expected to have some work experience before your work even begins. You need to understand them to not die, but to understand them, you need to not die while working with them. Some are easy, like our friend the Forsaken Murderer, and some are the bane of my very existence, like the Queen of Hatred, or how some weird people in my comments call her Queenie. Hey, I'm not judging, I'm somewhat of a degenerate myself. I'm purposefully keeping information about the abnormalities vague, as I think it's more fun to figure them out for yourselves. But if I am to give an advice, stay away from... The story is amazing, though to tell you the truth, I never did beat the game. I wasn't comfortable with this level of CBT, but I did watch a 5-hour long video on it at 2x speed before starting Project Moon's next game. Library of Ruina, which I just call Ruina, is not unlike Slay the Spire, a card game. But unlike Slay the Spire, Ruina isn't a roguelite like. You do lose some progress when you fail a reception, but that's just a minor setback. You wouldn't call Minecraft a roguelike, just like how you wouldn't call cognitive behavioral therapy fun. I have a love-hate relationship with this game. I love the gameplay, the story, the art style, but as I mentioned before, the difficulty spike is vertical, and the pacing is left wanting. The rate at which you acquire new cards to add to your decks is too high for it to not be annoying. Not only are your damage and defense determined by the roll of dice, but the order your nuggets can attack in also uses dice rolls. Still, the fights feel good and are not very luck dependent, despite everything I've just said. Especially some later bosses and abnormality fights, like our dear friend Queenie or the Queen of Hatred, who I'm scared to speak ill of for no particular reason. The story picks up where Lobotomy's true ending left us off. This time, instead of being the manager with an AI assistant, you are now the assistant to the AI, Angela. You play as a fixer who just wanted to have a cheeky ham and pang pang sandwich before getting transported to the library. Your job is to not die. You do this by helping Angela receive guests at the library. And by receiving guests, I mean beating them until they can beat you, of course. The further you go, the more floors you unlock for the library, including their patron librarians, the Sephira returning from LabCorp. Unlike with Lobotomy, here I did push through and finish the game, over the course of 6 months. The story kept me going through the difficulty spikes, some vertical, some horizontal. Speaking of story, I quickly want to name drop Lovetown. It is a place worth talking about, but it is also a place no one should talk about. Lovetown is also the first time, aside from the opening cinematic, where the music has lyrics in it. Before I started my journey, all I knew was that Millie made some music for Ruina, but the rest of the soundtrack was a mystery for me. It fortunately did not disappoint. If by any chance you don't know who Millie is, I recommend looking them up as their stuff is quite unique, and I don't feel like getting copyright struck. So, remember when I mentioned Slay the Spire at the beginning? I got spoiled on the ending of Ruina from Slay the Spire an entire year earlier. I know how stupid this sounds, but just hear me out. Some madman from the Project Moon community made a whole new path for Slay the Spire that takes you through Ruina. The acts themselves aren't really spoilery, but the ending is. The fourth and final act is almost a one-to-one copy of Ruina's ending, starting from the uninvited guests. So I knew the ending without knowing the context a whole year prior. Since then, another madman made a character mod for it as well, which includes most, if not all, the cards found in Library of Ruina. There are also mods off of Lobotomy Corporation, all of which I'll link in the description. The third and latest, at least as of now, game Project Moon made is Limbus Company. It takes place sometime after the events of Library of Ruina, but as long as you understand that the city these games take place in is about as messed up as an average Rimworld colony, you are free to start here, as the game itself is free to play.
You don't like the way I say words? Conquer my country. Now, to be fair, am I about to justify milking babies? We don't have a slug girl. Sergeant Bjornsson, do me a favor, go grab that taser. Finally, my collection of alien girls worshipping Cthulhu in a cave grows even bolder. She was pregnant. I've just had a dog maul a pregnant woman in the first 5 minutes. On the best part, if we recruit her, that's a 2-for-1 deal. Buy one, get one free. Thank you.
In the 2021 Project Moon Q&A, they said they'll be making a gacha game for one simple reason: they need money. The fact that a company decides to come out and openly say that they need money is, to me, a sign that I can place my faith in them. And now that the game's been out for a few months, I can safely say that, yeah, it's good. Limbus Company, featuring Dante from the Devil May Cry series, is a prime example of a gacha game done right. Firstly, the monetization is very free-to-play friendly. I managed to complete all available content without spending a dime. Secondly, it takes the combat of Ruina, simplifies it by removing the deck building aspect, and makes it overall faster. No more mandatory downtime between encounters. The story, music, voice acting, and art style all remain at a consistent and at times at a better quality than before seen. As the manager Dante, you have control over 12 sinners, of whom you have the basic forms unlocked by default. The only gacha element is dressing them up in different identities and getting new ego for them to manifest. Think of EGOs like Noble Phantasms from the Fate series. Speaking of Fate, these sinners range from the clinically insane Don Quixote, who got the gender-bent treatment, to the calm and collected Faust, or even the emotional Rex Sinclair. You need to learn how to work with them on your quest to claim the Golden Bows from Lobotomy Corp remnants. What's a Golden Bow? I've no idea, but you are the only one after them. You know, the more I think about it, the more it sounds like a Korean Fate Grand Order. On release, the difficulty spike was vertical, and there was basically no repeatable content besides mirror dungeons, but not for long. The infamous 218 boss was nerfed, and other dailies were added to the game, so now there's stuff to do. And as of writing, recently they added a real endgame, Refraction Railway. 13 challenging fights back to back, where the sinners you don't use regenerate health between fights. While completing it is itself not very difficult, if you want the biggest flex banner for your profile, you need to beat it within 120 turns or less, where the attempt with the least turns gets saved onto your profile. It is hard, especially because if you want a chance at getting it done quickly enough, you need to learn how to read. It is a meme among Ruina players that we can't read, but this challenge made me realize that it isn't a meme, it's the truth. Hell's Chicken, the first event released, was fun with a good chunk of story attached, even if that story mostly consisted of feeding dishes to a headcrab. It wasn't very grindy nor too difficult to make it a hassle. It was honestly a great start as events go. There is no review, I lied. I mean, there would be no point in it. I've read Wonderlab, Distortion Detective, Leviathan, and even bought the artbook for Luina. What do you think my opinion of these games are? The universe Project Moon built is simply marvelous. I've never played something with this much care put into world building, at least not until a certain critically acclaimed MMORPG, but that's for a different time. To the over 300,000 people who found my Ruina videos, I thank you. There was a time where the only thing I looked forward to each day was reading your comments. In the future, I won't be limiting myself to Project Moon content, but I'm also not really active in general. Anyways, I end it before I ramble on too much. I've been Silver, see you around.